Hey, so here we are with another manga haul video. A fair amount of new series are in this haul, which is always really fun. 2023 has been stacked with great new series so far, and I'm really stoked to have added lots of them to my shelves. Got some pretty cool stuff to show you all today, and I guess with that being said, let's get into it. Before we get started though, I'd like to welcome you to MangAnalysis, where I do little videos about the manga I've been reading. If you like what you've seen and would like to see more, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. Maybe even leave a comment. Let's get a conversation going. Hello friends, so we're gonna get right into it, and like usual we're gonna start with some new series and then we're just gonna go along. I don't actually have some bulk buys this time, which is kind of cool. Yeah, and it's gonna be overall a shorter haul, so hopefully won't take 20,000 years to get through these. So first one is Daemons of the Shadow Realm. It's spelled Daemons, but I'm just gonna say Demons because after reading this, I think that's essentially what they mean. So this is the newest series by Hiromu Arakawa, who gave us Full Metal Alchemist, and this was a very, very solid first book. Now, I read reviews about this after reading it where people were like, this is the next coming of Christ, this is the best book. I thought it was like a solid 8 out of 10 with the potential of being a lot better. I don't necessarily think it was a perfect first volume, certainly not. However, I'm really, really excited. I haven't really read anything from this author that I have not liked. You know what? Things I have not loved either. You know, I've pretty much liked everything. So I'm excited for more. And yeah, Demons of the Shadow Realm, big thumbs up. Not perfect, but very, very good. Next up is My Girlfriend's Child. Okay, so I have to say, so this is a shoujo. It's about teen pregnancy and the complications that may, you know, like bring into a couple, which is fair. I was expecting a pretty cool story about something that we rarely see in manga, again, teen pregnancy, and that was about it. And what I got was a lot more in the sense that the art is really, really, really good in a very understated way. I find typically in my experience that shoujo doesn't necessarily always have the best art. The backgrounds are usually very cookie cutter and very minimalistic in a way that I don't love, but it's all about the characters, I get that. But this one had this really, really good impressionistic vibe to it, and the art was really nice. And the characters were extremely relatable and realistic, and I'm glad to see that both the male and the female in this couple are good people, simply put, which is important, and it makes me want to cheer for them and, you know, give them my support in their times of adversity. So, My Girlfriend's Child, if this is a subject that interests you even a little bit, I really recommend it. Next up, okay, so this was an impulse buy. I had just heard that the anime was being well received, and I saw it in a bookstore, and I said, what the heck, I'm gonna check it out. Insomniacs After School. This was an excellent first volume. If you enjoy Chainsaw Man, not necessarily because of the weird plot or whatever, but because you like the cinematography and the way that the panels are cut, I would check this out. It's not an action series at all, but the way the panels are cut and the way the direction of the panels are being presented is really, really fun, really clever. It also reminds me a lot of, this is weird, but there's a certain amount of composition that reminds me almost of rotoscope. So if you don't know what that is, it's a type of animation that is drawn over film, so you get that really natural, almost eerie sort of animated style. But yeah, it's almost like a lot of these panels were based off photography, which is really interesting. And I don't know if it is, I don't know if it was, but a lot of it, sometimes just the angles feel really natural, and I think that's really cool. So, Insomniacs After School, I cannot wait to read more of it. Yeah, also the story is really nice, and I really like the characters, and this better blossom into a real romance. Do not tease me. Do not tease me. Give it to me, please. I need it. Thank you. Okay, this is a story that I knew nothing about. I only picked it up because of the hype and because of the pretty cover art. And I gotta say, Boy's Abyss. Okay, if you like Shuzo Shimi and Inyo Asano, specifically Goodnight Pun Pun, I would check this out. yeah, the first book left a really big impression on me. I thought about it a lot after the first few days. It was kind of wild, very uncomfortable, kind of depressing. So really kind of taps into that goodnight pun nihilism that you see a lot. And some of the moments are just creepy and weird, kind of like Oshimi, more blood on the tracks Oshimi, I would say, which is, in my opinion, some of the better Oshimi. So yeah, Boys Abyss. If you don't know anything about it, I think that's actually kind of good. I went in completely blind and was absolutely shocked by what I saw, which I think is great. I think that's a really good thing in manga, and I would recommend it. However, it's not for everyone. It does deal with some pretty hardcore content, warnings, I would say. So, knowing that, if that's not your jam, maybe read a summary just to make sure that you're not going to absolutely hate it. So, and finally, for this part of the video, we have Sneeze, which is a compilation piece from Naoki Urasawa. So, as some of you guys might know, I completely went on a Urasawa binge over the last year. I read Monster, I read Pluto, I'm currently reading 20th Century Boys, so Urasawa was my whole world. And then I picked up Sneeze, and I have to say, I wasn't disappointed, but I think the beauty of Urasawa is the slow build and that slow progression over a long period of time. So short story format, for me anyway, doesn't really suit, it doesn't really do it for me. I do like short stories usually, I really enjoy them, but this just so happened to maybe not be one that I connected with. There was a few in here that I thought were better than others, but generally, it's not necessarily something I'm going to go back to. However, I'm glad I have it in my collection. Okay, so this was a shock. Sword of the Demon Hunter, Volume 2. So I talked about this, the first volume, a few months ago, I think 2 hauls ago. And I was actually really impressed by the first volume of this series because it's based off a light novel, and I didn't really know how that would translate, and I was overall really pleased. And the second volume took it from a solid good to excellent. And I have to say, I was very, very surprised. Super surprised. If you are going to check this series out, I implore you, please just read the first 2 volumes. They're essentially two sides of the same coin, if you will. They number 2, I think, ends the intro, the prologue to the actual story that's going to develop, and it makes the entire first volume so much better, and I'm just very, very excited to see what happens next. This was really thrilling, really good, really took me by surprise, kind of unpredictable, and I'm all here for it. And also the art is really, really nice. It really reminds me of Jujutsu Kaisen. Very brushstrokey, very fast, and very, very emotive. Blood on the Tracks, Volume 13. So this is the first volume from the new arc. Okay, so I heard recently that the first 12 volumes should only be considered an intro. I hate that. I don't like super long series. So if you're telling me that I should be expecting another 24 volumes, it'll be a little upset. But if it the quality stays the same, can't complain too much, except my wallet. But yeah, this was a very different vibe to it. It wasn't as uncomfortable as the first volume. If anything, it was sad, and that's good. I will take sad over super uncomfortable 9 times out of 10. So it was great. A very good first volume. It sets up what's to come very, very well, and we're really excited. So Blood on the Tracks, continuing to lay down that good stuff. Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro, 14, My Beloved. I liked this book so much that I cheated and I went and read pretty well everything that's available online. I haven't done that in years, and I did it because this book was so good. It really made me want more. And then when I saw that number 15 is coming out in September, or maybe even later than that, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So I went online and I read everything, and I don't regret it a lot because I'm very excited to read it again. I actually recently just reread the whole thing to prepare myself for book 14, and I can tell this is one of those series that I'm gonna read a few times. So bring it on 15, 16, and whatever was there in those scans that I read. I'm excited to read you again. Chuji Next, number 2. In the first volume, I had said that I wanted to know a little bit more about the world, about the lore. I found some of the stuff a little confusing, and this book, while it doesn't resolve all the questions that I have, and it does give me a lot more questions, it did answer a fair amount, and I feel a lot more confident. I feel stable now in this world that Suishida has created for us, and I'm just really excited to know more about it. The characters are really starting to flesh themselves out. There's a little bit more complexity. There's a little bit more of the problems that surface in a world with people with powers like this. And we've seen it a lot lately, you know, with One Punch Man, with My Hero Academia, The Boys, all this stuff. You know, people with powers, how do they interact with the world? And I find that this one does it a little differently than the others, and in the best of ways, essentially. It doesn't feel like I've read this already, so I think that's really cool. Zom 100, Volume 10. This was excellent. I mentioned in the last, for Volume 9, that they did something really cool. They shook things up a little bit, and they continue to shake things up with this volume. I don't want to spoil anything, but they essentially added a member to their party, which I didn't think was going to happen again. You know, we've had like the 4-party member for a while. A few books ago, we got like a 5th, but it doesn't really count. And then we got another one, and they're really fun. And I think they had this really cool dynamism to our characters here. So yeah, Zone 100, it's shocking how consistently well it's delivering the goods. You know, typically this is when series start to sort of dip a little bit, as we've seen with other ones, and this one is just keeping the power going. You know, it's really good. Can't recommend it enough, so check it out. Kaiju number 8, number 6. So I had mentioned in the last book that I found the art was a little bit inconsistent, which was a little bit of a bummer because the art is so good in this series. This one was great. This one was fine. No complaints. This was actually a stellar book. Yeah, it's kind of hard to describe Kaiju number 8 at this point, because it's like, guys, it's really good. This cool thing happened. And it's like, yeah, dude, you've been saying this for the last like year and a half, but it's true. Like, it's just really fun. And the characters, every time they come in clutch. If anything, I think there could be a little bit more time spent on the rest of the cast. That's what they did at the beginning. We had the side cast, which was really interesting. And we haven't seen some of them for a while. And I think that's a little bit of a shame. I think the cast has a lot of potential. And instead of introducing new, really cool characters, I think it'd be neat to spend a little bit of time on the ones that, you know, we already have seen and were introduced to. So Kaiju number 8, other than that, absolutely excellent. Miracle-chan number 7. Okay, sounding like a broken record here with all this praise, but I guess I just got good taste because the series are killing it. This was a sick book. It introduced a new character, a new threat, and a new way for our character here to deal with said threat in a way that is very her, trying to ignore it the best she can, and it's just this time not something she can ignore. Also, it closes like an arc that we had been on for a bit, which was really well done. So Miracle-chan, it's a good read, it's a fast read, and it just keeps on building that good stuff. And if you look at the cover, it was good stuff. Dead Demon Destruction, number 12, the last volume. This series is over. There was this epic moment in book 11 that I knew I just don't think that anything was going to top it. I have to say I was right. I think the series ended really well. Anyway, it's hard to talk about the ending of this book because so much happens and they take a completely different shift for this volume, like on essentially the characters, and it has a really beautiful ending where it ties all the knots, but it's the way they get there that's a little bit weird. But I mean, you know, if it wasn't weird, that would be weirder because it's our boy. It's Inyo Asano. So yeah, Dead Demon Destruction. I'm feeling a little bit sad that it's over. It was a really big part of, you know, my reading anticipation for the last few years, and I'm really excited. I started reading the whole thing again. I think being able to binge read the whole thing is going to help. Waiting all those months in between volumes was a little bit difficult, especially at the end. So, but yeah, if you're looking for something not terribly long just to read or to add to your collection, I think this is really, really worth it. I think it's an excellent series and one of the very best from the author. Certainly, in my opinion, a little better than Goodnight Punpun. Goodnight Punpun was dark, bro. Oof, that shit was dark. So this is good stuff. My Dress Up Darling, number 8. I like this, man. This is a good series. So it's about 2 books now, I guess, where the romance dipped a little bit to make room for the cosplay, which is great, but I need some development with these characters and the way they feel about each other. And this is one of those classic series where like one member of the couple or the duo is outwardly in love-ish. Like she doesn't really say it, but she has feelings, and you don't really know what goes on in the male character's head. I wish you knew. I wish we could know like full well what his intentions are. And I'm sure we will find out eventually, but it's just one of those typical like, I'm a guy who's never spoken to another woman before. I don't know what it feels like to maybe feel things. So it's like, come on, Gojo, do the thing. Have a moment, have an epiphany, and let's go. I want more. Tokyo Revengers, 9 and 10, baby. So I had mentioned last time that I thought the last volume really brought me out of the immersion, that it was doing kind of an okay job at keeping me in. And this book is taking steps back into the right direction, but the scars that the last volume left me they're not healing as well as I wish they were. But no, this book was good. It introduced a few really fun characters, some really good ones, and characters that made you feel like, hey, there are good people out there that are involved in just some bad stuff despite their best efforts, and that's always a good thing. Yeah, the book starts off kind of like hardcore. I was like, whoa, what's going on? And then, it goes back into its regular routine, but good vibes. I just heard recently that the ending of this was maybe not as well appreciated as people wished it had. So yeah, I guess I'm excited to see. I think this marks, I don't know, I think there's 45 volumes in total and I'm up to 10 here. So still got a long ways to go, but we're doing our best. Comey Can't Communicate, 24. So I mentioned last time that 23 was the best volume in the series. Obviously this one did not top it, but it's doing such a good job of building on what it did. And I think that's a problem with a lot of, especially shows for some reason, where like they establish a couple and then to add drama and tension, they break it up. And it's like, dude, you spent like 4 seasons building this up. Why are you breaking it up already? And there's a little bit of fear that this is going to happen, but I don't think it will. I have so much faith in my boy here, Tomohiro Oda. Let's go. I have a lot of faith. Also, I'm curious, if you've read Kaguya-sama Love is War, you know that things got a little bit more mature and a little bit more adult, as the couple, the main couple, got closer and closer, became a couple, and then they did things that couples do. I wonder if Comey Can't Communicate will have that same kind of progression. I wonder if it will ever get spicy. I don't need it to. I don't even really want it to that much because it's hard to imagine little Angel Comey that way. But I wonder. We know that it can be done, and Kaguya-sama did it super, super well, super tastefully, very respectfully. So yeah, I wonder. And yeah, Comey, she's never gonna let me down. It's like she dies. 20th Century Boys, number 8. So I've officially started reading more of it now. I'm only missing 2 volumes, and it's the last 2 volumes, so by the time I catch up, I'll have bought them all. So I read number 2, and oh boy, it took, like, everyone watching this has probably read this series. Like, I'm really late to the party here, but volume 2 it didn't go the way I was expecting it to at all. Really there, I was shocked. I remember talking about how, like, oh man, it's a slow pace, brother. Oh wow, all these things are happening. And I thought that it was gonna continue that way for a long time before, hitting it. And man, like, I think halfway through volume 2, it just hits you with all the stuff that's been happening. And it's kind of crazy. And I love it. So obviously you've probably read this, but 20th Century Boys, so far, so good. The Hunters Guild Red Hood number 3. So I finished this series, and I am very saddened by the fact that it got canceled. I thought that the ideas they were presenting in this series were so fun and so interesting, and I'm shocked. I don't know what happened. I did, you were kind of starting to see with volume 2 that they were, they had a whole training montage, which is very, very much standard for the shonen boys. And yeah, it kind of finishes in this book, and then all of a sudden I guess the series was getting canceled, and maybe the author was rushing to an end. I don't know, but like, oh, what a shame. This had some great ideas, really good stuff going on. But yeah, if you have a chance to check this out, and you're not necessarily looking for the most well-executed series because it got canceled, but just like a really good idea, maybe something to inspire you with your own stories, I think everything that was done here was quite good. So check it out. It's only 3 volumes. Dan to Dan, volume 3. I love this series. Every book, I'm so excited. So I'll just say, I have been consumed by Tears of the Kingdom, The Legend of Zelda, and I have been putting off reading for a bit. I've been kind of, forcing myself to read for the first time in what feels like years, and I know that when volume 4 comes out, I will put Zelda aside and I will read it, because I'm having so much fun. It's so pleasant, it's so weird, and the characters just keep on giving on, baby, so can't complain and can't recommend enough. Blue Box number 4. Okay, so I just released a review video on this series recently, and I had mentioned one of my gripes was that I wish we got to know a little bit more about this character here, because she wasn't really doing it for me. And this book developed her a little bit. Not a ton, I'm still on the fence, but got to know her more. I'm vibing with what she's putting down, and she did this really cool, like, real mature thing that a real human would do, and I respect it. It's like shutting down a little bit the expectations here, but it's something a real person would do, and I think that's really cool. And the sport is killer, and I still want Buddy to go to nationals, and that's all I can expect or hope for in a sports series. Shoha Shoten Volume 2. Okay, yeah, this is very good, guys. Very, very good. Again, it's not funny. I don't really think it's that funny. The gags don't really land on me. I don't know if it's a language barrier or what. But the psychology of humor and making people laugh is so entertaining. We're already, like, in a tournament arc. It's the best. It really reminds me of, like, Hikaru no Go a little bit. Even Bakuman. Yeah, actually, this is very Takeshi Obata, But it's very, very good. And again, it's not a comedy, but it's more about the psychology of making people laugh, stand-up comedy. And it's really interesting. So Shoha Shoten, delivering the goods. Okay, I will say this was a better volume, the best volume that we've had in a bit, because it was just straight up sad and gave me the feels, it made me emote, and that's way better than the sterile garbage that it's been for a bit. Again, this started off as a comedy, and it's not funny anymore, it's just pathetic. But this was sad, there was real emotion, and I'll take that over whatever else we got for the last while. So, Rent a Girlfriend. Blue Lock, number 6. yeah, so we're now entering like the second stage, I guess. New teams, new teammates, which is very exciting. And yeah, I think I have to accept now that some of the boys that I've grown accustomed to in the first round, I don't think they're all going to make it, which is sad because I was that's the thing about sports manga, right? You get a team and then you get to know about all the characters and they all have their arc and they all have their moments to shine. And yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case with this one. And I'm kind of excited for it. It's different. And that's all I'm here for. So yeah, at first it felt like it was soccer. And now it's becoming a lot more about like their special abilities that are still somewhat grounded in reality, but less and less, which is fine. Blue Lock. My Hero Academia Vigilantes. So this was the penultimate volume. The last one is the last. Yes. This was excellent, man. They did such a good job. This is, I think, the perfect way to make a character go from zero to hero. His development was so slow, but so well paced, really put together properly, and he was put through so many different trials that it makes sense that he's as sick as he is now. And I'm so excited to finish the series. I think this book was excellent, and it's promising me a really good ending, and I couldn't be more excited about it. So, honestly, if you're kind of into My Hero, but you're finding yourself a little bit overwhelmed by how big it is and whatever, this is a great alternative. It's a really good introduction to the world, and I can't recommend it enough. Honestly, if I could only pick one between My Hero Academia and Vigilantes to bring on an island, I would probably bring this one. So, speaking of My Hero Academia, Volume 34. Okay, so I'm gonna put a spoiler here because I gotta talk about it. Spoiler. We were introduced to a character last book. This one. This cool American woman. And she's like the sickest. She's supposed to be the best. She's going to annihilate everything. It's gonna be sick. Obviously, you know she's probably not going to because it's a story and she was against the big bad guy. But you're like, okay, she's going to have a battle. Probably not going to win. She's going to come back and she's going to be a great addition to our team of heroes. She dies. She gets introduced, gets given the smallest amount of backstory. You don't care about her yet. And then she dies. And it's supposed to be this big, sad, heroic thing. And it's like, bro, why couldn't you give me like a few books to kind of develop a relationship with this character? I was kind of upset. I thought it was a weird decision to hype her up this much, to give her a battle that frankly was a little underwhelming, and then dispose of her. I think it might be different when you're reading it like weekly in a shonen magazine, because, you know, what was this, like 7 chapters of her in there? So you got about 7 weeks of a little bit of, you know, development. But for me, who just read this in like an hour and a half, I had no attachment. This really reminded me of what they did with Kyojiro from Demon Slayer, where they hype up this character. He's the best. We get introduced to him. He's kind of quirky. He has a little bit of a backstory. And then he dies. And then everyone's like, oh no. And I'm just like, bro, I've barely met this guy. I don't even know him. Why should I be sad? So this is what I experienced with this book. This was not my favorite book. Actually, that's not true. After this fight, doesn't last very long, then we get to the good stuff. A super big revelation, a very cool thing, a very cool little fan service reveal. So it started weird, the middle was whack, ended very well. So still though, when I think about this book, I think about her death more than I think about everything else that happened, and I don't think that's what I want to remember this book by. Kubo Won't Let Me Be Invisible, number 7. We're over halfway there. Yeah, this is another series that's a little bit hard to really talk about too much. It's just extremely consistent. Every book does a little bit more of that development. They grow a little closer each book, but nothing is too fast, nothing is too drastic. Moseying on along, and I think that's wonderful. And now I know that it ends in, 5 more volumes. I'm not really upset. I'm not impatient. I'm just gonna read it out, and I'm stoked. Kayasama Love is War 25. Oof, we're approaching the end, friends. We are approaching the end. And this was, as usual, a wonderful book. they're moving into the end game here. They're really putting their pieces together. It's not really a high school drama at this point. It's something else. It's something cooler. And yeah, I am so excited to finish this series. I've only heard good things about how it ended. I haven't seen any like angry Redditor being like, "It ruined my favorite series, bro." Nah, man, this is gold, and I can tell it'll be gold till I have to believe it's gonna be gold till the end. I cannot believe otherwise. Mashal number 11. Okay, so this is weird because this is meta commentary here. I actually just read Mashal number 12. It just came in, and it really changes up the things, like what it's been doing for a while. So coming back to 11, because I was flipping through it to remind myself of what happened to talk about it today. And yeah, I always say Mashal will be Mashal will be Mashal, and this volume was not very different, but it set up this sort of, I think, new trend that's going to happen in Mashal, and I'm excited for it. I'm going to talk more about number 12 next haul, but yeah, Mashal, I don't think it'll ever not be what it's been, but it feels like the author is becoming a little bit more confident, really leaning into what has made it so good, but also by not being too afraid of adding some stuff here and there, and this was a really good example. So Records of Ragnarok number 6. So yeah, this was a weird one. So we really got to know more about Jack the Ripper in this series, which was fun. It's actually funny, Golden Comey also featured Jack the Ripper recently, and that was super weird. So yeah, to see him in this angle here, we got to get his backstory like we've been getting for all the characters so far. But yeah, it's good vibes, man. Again, I'm shocked that this series isn't over yet. Like, even in Japan it's still going, and there's a set amount of fights. Should there be 13 fights, I think, or 12 fights or something? And it's like, oh gosh, are they just gonna get longer and longer and longer as the fights get progressively more complex? But this is just a big battle tournament at the end of the day, and I don't really need to put too much energy in thinking about it. So I guess I'm okay. with it. Blue Period 13. Okay, so this was sick. Last book, we delved into some territory that I didn't love. It's my biased opinion. They did some stuff in the last volume that I wasn't keen on, but turns out that was the point, and it was supposed to make me feel the way I felt, and now I just feel manipulated, which is fine. And in this book, there was this really good closure to what was going on in the last volume, and now they're moving on to new heights, and I'm really excited. So Blue Period, I can't even say the last book was a slump. It made me angry, and it was supposed to. And now I'm not angry anymore, so it's good stuff. And finally, my last book with this haul, which still feels like I've been talking for a while, so I feel like, am I a liar for saying it was a short haul, guys? I don't know. Smaller numbers, that's for sure. Kakagarui, number 16. So yeah, as you're used to with this book, I don't believe they're gambling anymore. I think they can see into the future, they can read minds, and they're super intelligent, all-seeing robots, because the amount of stuff that they want me to believe is just like normal or good intelligence doesn't make sense. Like, they're clairvoyant at this point, which is stupid. But it's very entertaining, and it's very good. I'm just curious. I think we've actually hit where it is in Japan. I think book 16 is what they're at, or maybe just 17. And I don't know. Like, I don't know what can happen after this. We've been in the student council arc forever. Like, what is it going to be after? Like, becoming the president of Japan? Like, I just don't know how much more they can do. So I'm hoping that means it's going to end soon. Do not tell me that this was just another intro to the real story. I'm going to lose it. But for all intents and purposes, Kakagarui 16 was very good, very fun, and very entertaining. So we've done it. We've gone through all those books. And I thank you if you made it this far. And now we're going to go to the outro. I don't know how to do a
slide edit, so it's probably just going to be a fade.
Well, that was my April and May manga haul. Now, I'd like to hear from you. What have you added to your shelves in the last few months? Let me know in the comments down below, for I'd love to know. I hope you enjoyed this little video, and if you did indeed enjoy it, consider subscribing. This was MangAnalysis, and I'll see you in the next one.